There's 330 million of us. Yeah, one of us is going to screw up every once in a while, but I want to take a minute and bring up Misty's point. You had to borrow how much money?
Well, I had to refinance my house and both my vehicles and sell everything I had.
How much money do you have to come up with?
40,000.
She has to come up with 40,000. This is one person to get out of jail?
One.
To get one person out of jail. Think about that. Multiply that times 177. That's probably average, right? Some have to come up with more, some less. Think about that. 177 times 40,000. Somebody put that in a calculator. Somebody is getting rich, okay? This is not America. This is not the way America was founded. How much? 7,080,000. I didn't realize it was that much. That's a lot of money.
I will say what they do. After Highway 6 with the county jail, they just built that new jail next to it. Just recently.
Yeah.
That jail just recently put out.
Yeah.
I know on just phone calls alone, we spent over 1,000 on phone calls, and then having to put commissary in so that they could eat. Yes, we spent thousands on that as well. So I know every family's probably done that as well.
This is not the way America was founded. Do y'all understand that to be 100% true? If you understand that to be 100% true, then you know something has changed in this country, right? We've all seen the old Western movies where the sheriff walks up and he says, okay, what happened here, guys? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had to shoot this guy because he drilled me or what have you. Okay, go your way. They carry the guy off to Boot Hill, bury him. It's over. They didn't need any lawyers, right? Because there was plenty of witnesses around. And the people were the principal in this country, not the slave. That's where we've come to in this country today. We've become the slave. We've become the tax slave. We've become the bond slave. We've had to put up our homes to get our sons, daughters, friends, whatever out of jail.
Things they didn't do.
Government, huh?
Things they did not do.
Do what?
For things they did not
For
do.
things they did not do. You're right. Yeah. I've spoke at these meetings, okay? I'm a COC&I member. I'm a 46-year rider of motorcycles. I might not look like it today, but I didn't dress the part. We came to Waco to make a full day of it today. We came for an open carry walk with our AR-15s in downtown Waco. The Waco cops have never messed with us. They've never got smart with us. They've never back-talked us. They've yes-sir'd and no-sir'd us every time. I'm telling each and every one of you, arm your ass up with a rifle. I don't care what it is. I prefer an AR-15 because they're light and you can carry lots of ammo. We had one of the sergeants come out and walk with us one day. I think that was our first or second meeting, our first or second open carry walk in Waco, Texas. Sergeant came out, brought his wife, brought his kids, spent about an hour, maybe longer with us. He was on our page, he was on our team. Maybe it had something to do with us carrying rifles, maybe it didn't. But we were on equal footing with these guys. They've never given us a hard time in Waco. We must arm ourselves back up because unarmed people are what?
Slaves.
They're slaves. What have they treated us like here lately? What did they treat us like on May 17th? They treated us like cannon fodder, which is what you would do to some worthless person. That's what they did on May 17th. I could have been there. You could have been there. You could have been there. Any one of us could have been there. I have never seen a harsh word spoken at a COC&I meeting, and I've spoken at two of the largest ones in the state. My brother Sputnik farmed the COC&I. He was all about politics and the law. We've got to start paying attention to the law. We were looking at something a while ago. Foreign countries have taken over 30% control of our ports. Don't let this be the ending let this be the beginning of waking up in this country. Foreign countries have taken 30% control of our ports of entry, where all freight comes in. Did y'all know that? I didn't know that before today. It's becoming so crazy that people are just turning off to it. It overwhelms them. But we've got to start reading a little bit, paying attention to what's going on. I want to touch on a subject today some of you might think is crazy. A grand game of chess was played on the American people in 1868. It's called the 14th Amendment. You've heard quite a few people in here mention it. Who has ever read the 14th Amendment? Raise your hand. In the first, how many? I'm a fourth generation Texan, okay? My people came here in the 1800s. I've still got my great-grandfather's 3030 Winchester. It's a model 1894. Our government was converted from a republic to a democracy. Does anybody ever hear about our government being called a republic anymore? Nope. They call it what? A democracy. We were converted. Actually, there are two forms of government running in this country concurrently. We have the Republican form running, and we have the democracy form running. How many people in here have a Social Security number? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you have a Social Security number. Everybody's got a Social Security number. Everybody in this room has a Social Security number but me and this guy right here. Why? I'm going to tell you why. The 14th Amendment started a new constitution, okay, and it's called the democracy. The day before they signed this amendment, everybody involved said, we're not signing on to that till we get this act signed. It's called the Expatriation Act of 1868, July 27th. Guess what day they ratified the 14th Amendment?
July 27th?
July 28th, 1868. All these guys signed on to it because they knew this was the new slave people in this country. And some of you are going to think this is crazy. It's not crazy. Something's wrong in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something wrong? Can we all agree on that? It's the 14th Amendment. That's what changed the whole country. That's what changed these people to think they can run roughshod over us, like they did on May 17th. When I said earlier, there's been a grand game of chess played on the American people, this is what I'm talking about, the 14th Amendment. We were converted from nationals of our state with a true state nationality to citizens of the United States. What does it say in the first sentence of the 14th Amendment? All persons born and naturalized in this country are citizens of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
What is the United States? The United States is not a country. Under international law, the United States is not recognized as a country. So what country do you live in?
American Republic.
No, you live in Texas.
Republic of Texas.
Texas is a country. Every state in this nation is a nation state. That is a country. Okay? John and I have corrected our nationality and denounced the citizenship of the United States. I love everybody in this country. I don't love my government and what they have done through trickery and deceit in the 14th Amendment converted everybody to slaves. They had to write and do the Civil War and call it a war of slavery. That's not what it was about at all. We all know that that read, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the premise was we can make them think it's about this, and wars are great for changing things.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look back at everything in written history, and every war changed the country. that's what they did with the so-called Civil War, which foreigners are taught it's called a war of aggression, which by all law, it was a war of nations. This is what happened in America, the war of nations. The southern nations against the northern nations. So it was a war of nations. Okay? There was no Civil War, and it wasn't about slavery. It was about states' rights. It was about taxation. It was about the states being able to do what they wanted to in foreign commerce. The North said, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to pay us a tax. What did the Founding Fathers fight over in the Boston Tea Party?
Taxes.
Taxes. 2%. This is what the Confederate States of America were fighting over, but it was a much larger tax. They said, no, we're not in for that. Somebody asked President Lincoln, why not just let the southern states go free? He said, who will pay for this government?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was all about. Who's going to pay for this government? Who's going to pay for this overblown government that's becoming a tyrant? Well, they got money from all around the country from these big bankers, and they armed up the North. They won. Because the Marxists that took control of this country before the Civil War wanted good slaves.
Yep.
They didn't want free men. Where are we at today? How many of us are paying 50% plus tax?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they just taxed you a little bit more. See, they don't beat the slave here in this country anymore. They either shoot you or tax you or do what they did to Misty. Things like this didn't happen in America. These are unreasonable bails. $1 million, that's unreasonable, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does it say in the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution?
Shall
No unreasonable bail.
Yep.
That's not unreasonable. $1 million is psychotic. Okay? That's crazy. Who in the hell can come up with $1 million? Nobody.
Bill Gates.
So, yeah, Bill Gates. So they came up with a plan to let you only pay 10% of it. Is your son on $1 million bond, or did they
He
lower
was
it?
on $1 million bond, he had to sit there for 16 days.
And they lowered it to 50,
We were able to lower it to 250,000.
$250,000.
That's still unreasonable.
And that cost you how much?
40,000.
$40,000. She'll never get that money back. Not one freaking penny. It's gone to some lawyered up, legislated up scheme to bilk the slave for more money.
And we're still paying an attorney.
I'm sure you are, Kyle. I know of guys that are paying attorneys that are totally 100% interest. Their bill is 15 grand. So add that on to this 177.
But there is this one deal about you can pay an attorney, he can signature bond, most of them can, up to $250,000 or $1 million. If you go, instead of get a bond, you give your money to the detainer. When I was selling drugs before,
Yeah.
down before.
Let's don't get hung up on that. It's all a money thing.
You have to lose your money.
I understand
Pay
that.
the attorney to keep bond you out.
I had a few lawyers back in the day that did that for me. This whole thing did not start with Waco, but that's a sign of the times. It's going to get worse. And it's going to get a lot worse for bikers. I'm pretty sure. In my little town in Groesbeck, some of y'all might know, some of y'all might not know, I own a motorcycle shop. When I went to town 5 days after this happened, they all looked at me and cornered me. Well, where's your patch? Were you caught up in that? You weren't caught up in that, were you, Tom? It was like, blah, you know. So the bikers have gotten a bad name. 20 years ago, my brother woke me up to the Texas Motorcycle Rights Association and said, come on, we're going to go to Austin and get our rights back. I didn't know we had lost any. I was that ignorant of what was going on. Now, I'm so in tune to what's going on and how corrupt it is, I can't talk to a lot of people about how corrupt it is because I'm way over their head. And I'm not trying to say I'm way over your head. But I have to ratchet back what I say because I get way over people's heads. This RICO Act, they filed on everybody. This RICO Act is only good on who, John? It's only good on citizens of the United States. This is a private law they wrote for their citizens of the United States. It does not apply to him, and it does not apply to me, because we're not under their private law. The thousands and thousands of private laws started in 1868 with the 14th Amendment. This is their private citizen, the citizen of the United States, and this is their private laws. Are you getting this? You understand what they've done? They've written all these crazy laws since 1868, and now we've become their slave, paying them through some evil system. Some lawyers think it's okay. A lot of lawyers think it's okay because they're living in $1 million homes. It's not okay what they're doing. Our elected officials swear an oath to the United States Constitution. They're also swearing an oath to the 14th Amendment. Y'all do realize that. Most of these guys are not breaking their oath to the Constitution. They're upholding it via the 14th Amendment. Since the 14th Amendment, there is no Bill of Rights. Do you understand that? If there was a Bill of Rights and it meant anything, would we need a license to carry a gun in Texas?
Nope.
Would we be getting shot down for carrying a gun in Texas?
Nope.
No. The Bill of Rights has been gone since 1868, since the new government took over. This is a communist government. We weren't taught this. We were taught this is a good, great government since grade school, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they let everybody in this country vote, and you'll read this in the 14th Amendment, that's when they let everybody in this country vote, whether they lived in a ditch, whether they were a drunk, whether they were a drug addict, no matter what they were, if they were a transient person, as a citizen of the United States, you can vote in this country. What other countries allow voting like that?
None.
Every communist country on the freaking planet.
Oh.
They let everybody vote through mobocracy. That's why our country is failing. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for the attorneys to wake up and pay attention to what's going on. Our law, stated in the 7th Amendment of the United States Constitution, is common law. It's not maritime law. It's not admiralty law. It's not none of this 14th Amendment law unless you're a citizen of the United States. Is this sinking in, guys? Everything they're doing under the 14th Amendment and the citizen of the United States. They went and shot their citizens of the United States up on May 17th. They have very little legal ground to stand on, these citizens of the United States. And don't get mad at me, I'm not using citizen of the United States as a bad word. It's a slave word. Mm-hmm. We have become their slaves. How many people think taxation is slavery? I do. I know it is.
Yep.
Anytime your labor or your wages are taxed, that's slavery. Most everybody in this country is at 50% today, give or take 10%. So, you're either half slave or you're half free man. You can say it however you want to. What was the black man back in the day, the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, and 1800s in this country? They were 100% slave. What I've told you today will set you free. And John brought a book called the Writ Amendment. This book tells this tale from start to finish on our enslavement and our freedom, reversing the enslavement and restoring our freedom in this country. And it's all about becoming a state national that the founding fathers in this country set us up as. Every nation is a state in this country. Every state is a nation. Every state is its own country.
Yep.
We have not been taught this through history. But this is how we reverse the enslavement, by becoming state nationals and denouncing the Social Security and all this other stuff. Everybody over here has a social security number?
Yes.
Are you receiving benefits from the government?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, many have planned for this socialist security system, and that's exactly what it is,
Mm-hmm.
all of their lives. I haven't. I've never planned on any government program. I've always planned and done things on my own. And I'm not knocking you guys for it. That's what you were taught in school. You were given this number fraudulently. How many people, when they were 3 days old, ran down to the Social Security office and signed up for the Social Security number? No.
No one.
Your parents signed you up for this because the hospital or the local county made them do this. This is a fraudulent contract. This is how they start you off in their socialist system. And is there anybody in here that doesn't think Social Security is socialism? Thank you. The county of Galveston opted out of Socialist Security back in the 80s. The average employee in Galveston County, Texas is 400% better off than the Social Security recipient.
Wow.
Are you pissed off yet? Many of them are millionaires because they got to invest their money with private companies that invest and make money off their money. Whereas your money's set in a low-yield government bond program which made about 2% a year. What is inflation? Since 9/11, it's almost been 100%. So if you're receiving 2% for the last 15 years, 14 years, you would have made 28% on your money, but you would have lost 72% due to inflation.
Yep.
See what I'm saying? It's a socialist system that's no good. So we need to back away from it, denounce all this stuff. If we're young enough, we can. Or if we're wealthy enough or we saved enough, we can. Now, have I lost anybody? Are you ready to hear more? Or does somebody else need to speak? Anyway, we've got the book here. We're gonna raffle the book off. It's called the Red Amendment. This woke John up, it woke me up. We both corrected our nationality. It woke Dr. Deanna Robinson up here. She is a teacher at McLennan County Community College, and she also teaches at Baylor, right? Deanna was totally asleep to what was going on in this country until she read the Red Amendment. Now she can't stand to be a citizen of the United States any longer because she knows she's a slave. Like I said, I'm not saying citizen of the United States is a bad thing. I had somebody tell me the other day, well, I'll just stay a citizen of the United States. Hey, does anybody know the lady Harriet Tubman? She was the conductor for the Underground Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
After the Civil War, she went to all these plantations all over the country and said, all you black people can go. They said, what are you talking about? What do you mean we can go? You're free. Shoot, you can go. I'm free right here. These slaves actually thought they were free. Has anybody read the story? Anyway, she made a quote back in the 1800s. She said, I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. This is where we are in America today. I've got almost 100 people reading this book. You know how many of us have changed their nationality and corrected it to the state, country they live in? Me. I'm the only one out of 100.
Wow.
John did it before he met me. John, how long have you been a Texas National?
Since February 26, 2013.
John's been a Texas National since 2013. He told his employer, he said, you can no longer take taxes out of my paycheck. Now here's one of the good parts. This is not the best part though. His employer said, no, everybody's got a Social Security number. And he said, okay, I just want to let you know that I no longer have a Social Security number because I denounced it. So they kept taking taxes out the whole year. He sends the IRS a letter and lets him know, my employer made a mistake. They took taxes out of my check. I'm no longer a citizen of the United States. I'm a Texas national. He sent him all this paperwork where he denounced the citizenship of the United States. Guess what? the IRS sent him back a full 100% payment on his taxes.
Wow.
And never questioned one word about what this gentleman said, because in law, he filed the correct paperwork. Now, let me ask you what, if you had all of your tax money from day one when you started paying tax, how much money would you have in the bank?
A lot more.
Well, none in the bank.
There's another deal we'll talk about later on. Bankers are slave masters. That's another part of the slave system. Anyway, we would have, probably every one of us would probably have $500,000 laying around the house, and we'd have a lot nicer things. We'd probably all be riding a brand new Harley, paid for with cash, right? Yeah. Anyway, John, would you like to say something? Did I miss anything?
I've got a few things sort of.
I want to introduce y'all to John Steele. He's the first Texas national in this decade to correct his nationality. He is a 100% Texan. John Michael Steele.